YouTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie. So yesterday I filmed, literally yesterday, I filmed my video on books, or not yesterday, or no, actually on Wednesday. On Wednesday I filmed my video on books that I've already read that I recommend for autumn. So now I want to film my video on books that I want to read this autumn. And like for summer, the video about summer books I want to read for the summer, this is a long one. There's a lot of books here. I'm also going to share the ones that some of the ones on that video that I want to reread as well. And I'm going to start with those, and then also I'm going to show you the two books I just bought, because they are sequels to some of the books. They are sequels to two of the books here, and then there's a DVD that I bought because DVDs at given bookshop are $1, while the Blu-rays are like $3. So, and this was a DVD, so I figure it's only $1 extra. Okay, so the books I want to reread this year are, first we have Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is the 200th anniversary edition. I absolutely love this particular edition. That's why I bought it. And it is Victorian literature, so it applies to Victober, so I can read it. I'm kind of in crisis here about when I want to read, because I'm back into the mood of, I want to read spooky books again, in October, but I do not, so it's like I'm gonna have to, find a way to decide what I want to read. And September is almost over, and technically, even though I've said in the past that for me, September, even if autumn doesn't officially begin until the end of September, it still feels like I still consider it part of autumn, because it's when school always started, in September. So even though it's hot as Hades outside, although it's actually cooled down today, it's not as hot as it was. Like, I feel comfortable wearing jeans and socks, and I wore my jean jacket while walking to the roast office. So next is Clash of Kings by George R. R. Martin, the second book in the Song of Ice and Fire series. And last night I continued watching this video on YouTube that was a retrospective on the show. So that kind of reminded me of, I need to pick this up for to continue my reread of the first few books in the series, because I've never gone past book 3. Like, I got to the halfway of book 3, and then I put it down for some reason, and it was years before I picked it up again. So I figured a couple years ago, I was like, let me just start over from the beginning and reread A Game of Thrones, the first book, and I reread it, and then it's been a couple more years since I continued with this one. So, and I'm actually not one of those people who's like eagerly and impatiently waiting for him to write the next book, the final 2 books, because I've never, like I said, I have not got past book 3, and it's not, now that does not mean, obviously that just mean, for me, that's not because I didn't like it, because I absolutely love the series. It's just I'm still struggling with the whole committing to these longer, chunkier books, reading them all in one go. So it does. So, long story short, it doesn't bother me as much, because it's still a great series, and as I think it was Mike from Mike's Book Reviews said that, even if he doesn't finish it, at least we got this great series of books. And it's not one of those stories where it's like there's a cliffhanger at the end of every book. There kind of is, but it's not like, I'm trying to think of a good comparison. It doesn't end like the way that, A Court of Mist and Fury ended, where you're like, what's going to happen to Freya, and, what is going to happen with all the other characters. Like, it doesn't, they don't, but so there's that one. And then we have Something Wicked This Way Comes. I read this last year and absolutely loved it. In fact, I love it a little bit more than Fahrenheit 451, which I did love. but this one was so much fun, and I remember years and years ago watching the adaptation and not realizing it. But for some reason, I was thinking the main character was a girl. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe he longish hair because the main character is a boy. But I would love to watch the adaptation, but I never came across it once I read it. And I don't think I read it. I think I did not read it in October. I read it during a different time. And I wish I had read it in October. I don't know. Could be wrong, but I don't think I did. I don't think I read it in October. So, there's that one. And technically that one is part of a series, but it's one of those series where you don't have to read all the books in the series. Then we have another book in the series, Son of a Witch, which is the sequel to Wicked by Gregory Maguire. I read this many, many years ago, and I never finished the series, so I've only read the first 3 books. And I ended up giving my copies of it to Larissa before we moved here. So I one day decided I want to reread it, and I want to finish it. So I slowly started buying them again, and I reread, I think it was last year that I read Wicked. Yeah, because I read it when we went to that Lake Lore. That's when I read it, I think. So I have been. Wait, actually, no, maybe not. Maybe I'm getting that mixed up because I know I also read The Witch. I started reading The Witching Hour, so maybe no, I did not read it in October. But so I want to reread this as well. And now would probably be a good time. Okay, so next we have The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which I already kind of started my reread of it. Now this is one of my longer ones, and as I said in that video of autumn recommendations, I feel like you could save this for going into winter time because, you know, we see the whole school year for the main character Richard, and there are parts of it that take place during winter time, so I feel like I could read it for going in maybe in November. Which, by the way, you know, this is another one of those where if you like this movie, if you like the movie Dead Poets Society, I think you would like The Secret History. Because it's a similar kind of atmosphere, I feel like. But anyway, which I already think I kind of mentioned in that video anyway, in my autumn recommendations. So I want to read this one. And then, now this one isn't as long. And that is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. So I feel like, and it does a similar thing, it has a similar plot to A Secret History. It's not as long, so I'm wondering if I should consider this one as well. Maybe read this soon rather than later, because I'm trying to decide what I want to read next after I finish The Idiot by Dostoevsky and The Way of Edam by Philip Chase. Now, of course, I do know that I'm going to read the sequel to that one, The Prophet of Edam. So that one I'm definitely going to read, especially because I'm taking advantage of Kindle Unlimited, because I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to keep it or not, and or if like I'm gonna cancel the subscription after the 3 months. So I'm trying to read as many books with Kindle Unlimited as I can. But I mean, that's an epic fantasy, so it's gonna be a little bit long. So I might read this coming up. Like I feel like I should go through, what I'm gonna need to do is go through all the books, go through the rereads pile, and then the books that I haven't read, and pick and choose. But it's very hard to do because I'm like, oh, I want to read this one, but I don't want to leave that one sitting there on my shelf and being unread. I feel like I should prioritize this one, and it's very confusing and it's very stressful. So there's that. Okay. So the last 2 more books as of the rereads pile, and the rest will be books that I haven't read that I want to read. Okay, so we have The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I absolutely love this, and I think I've already read this 2 times. Like, before, when I first started filming this, I think I thought I only read it twice, but I think I've actually read it, or scratch that, I thought I had read it only one time, but actually I've read it 2 times now, so this one may be my 3rd time, I think. It's either I've read it 2 more times or 3 times. But I think this is perfect, as I said in that recommendations video, so, and I don't want to reread it. Like, again, I start talking about these books, all of a sudden I want to reread them. And then the last one is The Haunting of Hill House. And this is not as long as the shorter book, so I could get this in, like, if I wanted to include some not so long books. But yeah, this is a haunted house story, so it's perfect for this time of year. And it's not as long, so I could, prioritize. Maybe I should prioritize this one. Okay, now real quick before I get to the ones that I haven't read that I want to read for autumn, let me show you what I bought today. Okay, so first we have the one DVD that I bought, which is The Covenant. Like I said, I was always like, a lot of people loved vampires and werewolves, but I was more of a witch person, so I loved witches. And this is about a male coven of male witches. And I remember loving this and the lore and everything, and I don't know if it will come on any streaming networks or not, so I saw it at the roast office, like, let me grab that. And it's only $1. So, I mean, if it was a Blu-ray, it'd be $3, but it's a DVD, so got that, so I can watch it this October. Okay, so now let's get to the 2 books I bought. So I was trying to stick to only getting 2 books, because I totally slipped my mind that I forgot. I had already, on September 1st, I had already went to the roast office. And like I said, I try to stick to a budget every month, and we do have this big trip to London coming up, so I gotta be careful about my spending for now. So we have The Pagan Lord. I don't know how many books are in this series. The Saxon series, or the show's called The Last Kingdom. And I still got quite a few books to read before I get to this one. I almost bought the book that comes after this one, but then I saw the other book that I ended up buying. And so I was like, okay, let me come back to that one. And if anything, I can always get that one off Thrift Books. It might be more expensive, because it is a little bit more expensive on Thrift Books. But at least I can get it there. But this is The Pagan Lord. I don't know where in the series, like, what number is it? Wait, better not read the back. I almost read the back. Might spoil things for me. But, now, when I first mentioned that I was buying these books, it was Alan from the library, Alexandria, and then Jennifer Books, who kind of inspired my purchase of this series. But I don't think Alan actually read this series. He's read other Bernard Cornwell books, but I don't think he's read this series. So, but he definitely wasn't, he along with Jennifer Brooks were an inspiration for buying this series. So I do, and actually this book 2 is in this pile somewhere for a book I want to read this autumn. I used to always say fall, but now I realized I don't really like saying that word. I prefer the word autumn, but it's so hard to break the habit of saying fall. So, and then the other one that I bought, that I ended up buying along with it, was this one, The Book of Life, which is the 3rd book in the All Souls. It originally was a trilogy, so it says trilogy on here, but there is a 4th book. And book 2 is in this pile somewhere, just like book 2 of this in the Saxon series is in that pile. I figured, let me just grab it, because probably the cheapest place I'm gonna get it. And it's in great condition, you know. Yeah, it looks very red, like it's, you know, has a broken spine and these little curled on the here. So, but it's still in great condition, so how about that as well. So that's what I bought at Givens that day. So let me go ahead and show you. This is the second book in that series, the Shadow of Night. And I also have this season, the first season of Discovery Witches, and this season on Blu-ray. I think I'll still buy season 3, because even though it's going to be on Max because it's an AMC show, I don't like the idea of having the first 2 seasons, a copy of them, and then not having season 3, not a physical copy of season 3. So I just have this weird thing where I need to, wherever I have to watch the series all in one place. Like either I have to have my own copies of the series, or I have to, you know, I can't, or I have to watch them all on the, you know, the one channel or whatever, or like on Netflix or something. And so I'm still gonna buy season 3 on DVD, on Blu-ray. This is book 2, and it's so there's that. Okay, and now we have this huge pile right here that's now fallen over. Okay, so first we have, again, another Alan from Library Alexandria. This is a 4-book series by Anne Bancroft, called the Babel series, or Books of Babel. It's this guy who goes on his honeymoon to this famous Tower of Babel. It's a tower that has a bunch of levels and their own little worlds within it, and he ends up losing his fiancée in the tower, so he has to find her by going through all the different levels. So the 4 books each are about the different levels until he gets to his beloved fiancée. And when I looked at it, I feel like it's gonna be have a little bit of a Alice in Wonderland vibe to it. Like whenever people talk about this book, that's what I think of, Alice in Wonderland. Like, you have all these crazy characters in different places that don't make sense to the main character, and they're just crazy and eccentric, and you just get frustrated with these people because you don't understand them, and they're full of nonsense. Like, that's what I feel like I'm gonna get, the vibes I'm gonna get with this. So there's that one. Okay, and then we have... So this one I was debating about getting to, because I was originally going to read it for Jane Austen July, because it is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice. So like Tooth and Claw, it deals with dragons, but instead, unlike Tooth and Claw, which the characters are dragons, the characters are dragon riders instead. And it is a trilogy, and for some, I do not have book 2. I do have book 3 though. So, I don't know if I'll save it for next year or go ahead and read this now so that I have motivation to buy book 2 sooner rather than later. But this is book 1, so, yeah, well, I guess that's all I need to say. So, I don't know if I'll read it or not this autumn. But, yeah, so there's that one. And then we have A Natural History of Dragons, a memoir of Lady Trent. So originally this was one I borrowed from the library, but at the time I was like, I'm not interested. And I hate to use the B word, but at the time I was kind of bored the first time I read it. But then someone got me, like, I think it was Jean from Jean's Bookish Thoughts, got me excited about it all over again. So I bought it. And this time I bought it so that there's less pressure for me to be like, oh, I have to read all this book within one go so I can turn it in within the week. And you know what I'd love to do? I would love to do a video where I talk about first I want to read a bunch of books that are like books that are historical fiction, but they have a fantasy element to it. Read a bunch of those and recommend books like that to you that I think have a great fantasy element to them. So I don't know if I'll read this one, but it's kind of an academic, so maybe I'll read it for this fall. Okay, and then we have Alloy of Law. So it's the first book in the second Mistborn era, and it's not a super long book, so could potentially read it before the end of the month. So because I do have Brandon Sanderson's big epic series, The Stormlight Archives. I have the second book in that series in this pile. And I've been kind of waiting to get different copies of these because I like these editions, the UK editions, because I like the colors and so I saved myself to get these ones, and like I said, I wanted to get for the regular size paperbacks to the mass markets. So I feel like I need to get to this one sooner rather than later. And this is another one where I started reading the first chapter, but then I put it down. So this is kind of, and what's really cool is, although funny enough, not everybody loves that aspect of it, but I think it's kind of a really cool idea, the idea of a Western. It's like, the first Mistborn era had like a medieval, was in a medieval type world, and now we're kind of in a Western type world. And then I think the next is going to be a different, he's going to, like, I think he's going to do a futuristic world, and then he's going to do something different. I can't think there's going to be 4 Mistborn series, I think. I would have to double check, but yeah, I might get to this now in September. Okay, next we have Anne Rice's Witching Hour, and the camera is doing that thing where the light is in the way. I gotta move that because I don't want that to fall down and break. So this is, so like I said, I was always big into witches. So instead of reading her vampire works, I want to read Anne Rice's witch series, which has been made into a show. So this is, and this was a weird situation because this is one of those situations where at the time, when I first attempted it, I lost interest, but then years later, I got interested in it again, and I bought the first 2 books, this one, and then Last Year, and then Tatless is the last book. It's a trilogy, and I remember loving her writing, so it was just, I wasn't sure if I liked the direction the story was going. But now I'm kind of, like, I've matured, I've grown up, my tastes have changed in books, so, I think I want to start reading this again. I probably should start reading this sooner rather than later, so maybe in September going into October, because it's a chunky boy. So there's that. And then here's another series where I should probably prioritize this. This is the 4th book in the Wheel of Time series, another big boy. And the second season of the show has just come out. I wonder how it's going to do, because a lot of fans are not happy with what the show is doing. So I don't know if it's going to last or not. But even if it does, I think I'll be okay, because, it's only on book 2. So as long as I read book 4 this year, I should be good. And then attempt to start book 5 possibly by the end of the year. That I should be good. I feel like I need to be, if the show is going to last, I need to be one step ahead of a step ahead of each season, so I don't fall behind and then end up prioritizing the show or, over the books like I did with Game of Thrones. But this is book 4. Dragon Shadow Rising. Okay. And then we have one of Stephen King's books, The Eyes of the Dragon. So, this is one of those ones where I almost got rid of it and donated it, but then I changed my mind over time, probably because of watching one of Daniel Green's videos where he talks about Stephen King. And you know, this is my thing. I mean, it's not like Mr. Mercedes, where it's kind of a thriller. And, you know, with a serial killer in it. This one is fantasy, so it's definitely right up my alley. So I feel like I should, you know, I think I would really love it. Like, I don't know what it was that made me dismiss it at first. Like, probably because I was being a little too influenced by what people said on BookTube. At least, or I should say what people said on Goodreads. So I feel like I should prioritize this over the other fairy tale. And maybe save fairy tale for wintertime. Because I did take fairy tale off the shelf to talk about for this video. But I might save that one for wintertime. And then we have this one, which I feel like is kind of a sci-fi fantasy type story. And this is one I haven't heard a lot about. Like I said, I'm trying to focus on reading books that aren't as hyped. Like, I don't mind hype. I will read books that are overhyped. But sometimes I want to try to read books that I have not discovered yet, or books that haven't been discovered by other people that aren't constantly talked about. I want to prioritize the ones that are less talked about, or I haven't heard about them at all. So this is The Starless Crown by James Rollins. And I know book 2 is out, but it's not out on paperback yet. Like, I've only seen it on hardback at BAM. So I'm thinking about getting to this one soon as well. Like, all of these I'm thinking about getting to soon, but some of them I might, like I said, I need to pick and choose. So this is kind of one of the, like I said, this one feels like it's a mixture of sci-fi and fantasy. Where there's sci-fi elements, but it feels like fantasy. And also I love that it's, like, there's multiple characters. Like, it has a gifted student, a broken soldier, a drunken prince, and a prison thief. So, yeah, really, so it's only 3 people, you know, so yeah. But that sounds really fun, and I want to read it. Okay, and then we have... Okay, so this is one I want to read before I read the main book. And then it's Silmarillion. This is kind of the Bible for Middle-earth. Like, I've talked about this recently. I think I talked about this in my 7 intimidating books. So yeah, this is kind of like a Bible for Middle-earth, because it's basically talking about how Middle-earth was made and the history of its gods and everything and all the different ages. And so as I said in that book, it's very intimidating. In that video, it's very intimidating because of that. But I want to get to this one before I read Lord of the Rings. So I'm thinking about using this one for this autumn as well. Now, it's not as big as Lord of the Rings, but that was 3 books in one. That was three parts in one big volume. Well, this one is not, because even though it's not as long, not as huge, it's still a very dense book with a lot of history. And it can be very, I feel like, confusing and intimidating, especially like if my mind is tired or there's a lot of noise all around me and I can't concentrate on what I'm reading, then yeah, that can make it confusing. So I need to read it when it's completely quiet. So yeah, I need to read. So this might be considered like a November, because I'm thinking of reading Lord of the Rings in December, like starting that one in December and reading it into January. So maybe I'll save the Silmarillion for November. Okay, and then we have The Magicians by Lev Grossman. So this is another one where I was like, at first I was like, I decided to DNF it. So this was one of the few times I've done a soft DNF. Although for me, sometimes it's not really a soft DNF because at the time I'm pretty sure I'm DNFing it. I'm not coming back to it. But then all of a sudden someone starts talking about it and saying how great it is. And the only way that will happen is if I was already still interested because it's already kind of up my alley. So the person that was talking about this book and absolutely loved it and the whole trilogy, I think, was Murphy Napier. She just did a whole video. I think she did a video on the whole trilogy or something. I don't know. I would have to double check on that. But, I mean, I love the show. So, you know, although there obviously are changes, of course, but I want to, before I dismiss this as something where I'm like, oh, I love the show more, I want to at least try it. So this, and like I said, this is one where I think it would make sense to prioritize this. And it also is blurbed by George R. R. Martin. And I love the blurb. The Magicians is to Harry Potter as a shot of Irish whiskey is to a glass of weak tea. Hogwarts was never like this. I love that blurb on this book. And then eventually when I read the whole trilogy, I would love to rewatch the show. But so yeah, I definitely want to read this. And maybe September might be a good option to start it. There's a lot of books I would love to start in September because of especially their setting. If they're books with a school setting, then yeah, I'm tempted to start this in October. Again, though, I need to go through them and sift through them. Okay. Here's another chunkster. So this is the only book in the Dark Tower series. This is this is the one that I stopped at the first time I read the Dark Tower series. The book 4, which is The Wizard in Glass. Again, one of those situations where I put it down, was like, oh, I'll come back to it, and I never came back to it. So I reread the first 3 books. So now I want to, and I did obviously get started in this. So this is more here because it's a book that I want to pick up and continue as soon as possible. So this one, it starts out with the quartet, but we get into the backstory of the main character, Roland, in this one. So, like I said, it's not really an autumnal book. It's a situation where, like, I just want to pick it up and read it because I don't want to wait too long before I pick it up again. So, now, like, actually, some of these books probably don't give me autumnal vibes. They're more like books that I just want to read and get to before they end up sitting on my shelf for months or even years. So that's the only reason some of these are there, even though they're probably not, they wouldn't be exactly autumnal type reads. Okay, so now this is one of the ones I feel like is definitely an autumnal read. This is Olivia Blake's The Atlas Six. It's, I believe, a duology, and I believe the book 2 it might be a trilogy. I don't know, but this definitely, I feel like it was, a lot of people, you know, it feels like an autumnal book. And I think it also takes the idea of what if, I think I remember this being associated with the concept of what if the library at Alexandria didn't get burned down and they had a secret society, that kind of scenario, I think. But, and I think, it has illustrations. That's cool. And for some reason, when I look at this, I also think of the, 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. Or like, that one mystery by, Agatha Christie, where you have the groups of people and they all are invited to the island. I can't remember what the title is called. But they're killing off one by one. It's one of those kinds of stories, I think. But yeah, this is definitely one I want to prioritize for autumn as well. Okay, sorry, I love looking at people's drawings. I love looking at people's sketches because I am not a good artist. I cannot draw worth my life, so I love looking at other people's work. So there's that as well. So like I said, I need to go through these and see which ones are actually feel like autumnal. Okay, so next one, here's another one that's one of those ones where I just need to get to the book in the series. I mean, and this one especially because it's one of the trilogies that I need to get to and prioritize, because I just would need one more book to read. And that is An Echo of Things to Come by James Islington, which his next book, his newest book just came out, I think. The Will of Many, which it might be in the same world as this book. And I've heard a lot of good things about it, but I want to finish this trilogy first. So, again, this is one of those things. Excuse me. Forgive me. So again, this is one of those things where, like I said, I just want to read the next one so that I can read the whole trilogy by the end of the month, the end of the year. So this is the only reason. And this actually looks like it's bigger than the last one. So it might be longer. So this one is not autumnal. Doesn't give me autumnal vibes. It's, again, like I said, I want to get this trilogy done before the end of the year. So there's that one. And, you can tell me that, oh, you don't have to get it done by the end of the year, but I'm going to feel it. Even if you tell me that, I'm still going to feel anxious and feel guilty and feel like I have to get this done. The only way I'm going to, be like, okay, I can live with the fact that I don't get it done is if I don't have all the books in the series. That one, I have all the books in the trilogy, so I don't have any excuse. And I will still feel guilty if I don't finish it. Okay, so here are the other ones. So the other big books in a series. So we have The Name of All Things. This was one of those ones that I bought this book on Thrift Books. So yeah, it doesn't have the little sticker on it, but I know it's a Thrift Books thing. So so this is book 2. I absolutely loved book 1. And like, I actually kind of liked what other people did not love about book 1, which is the story, the structure of the story. I actually liked that. I thought that was a cool concept and a cool way of telling it. And you get the whole story, but through 2 different eyes. So this is the second one. We're with the same character as the first book, but he meets someone new along the way who knows him. But which was weird because I thought someone had said, oh, we got a whole bunch of new characters. It's not even the same characters as the first book. So I think but I guess they meant that the main character is not with all the same, it's still the same main character, but he's with a whole bunch of new characters. Maybe that's what so I think that's what they meant. So this is one of those ones where I feel like I need to get to it, but at the same time, there's a lot of books in the series, so it's not like I can get it done anyway within the month. But I want to. Okay, so the next other big one now, this is one I definitely want to start prioritizing because it took me forever to read the first one, which is The Way of Kings. So this is Words of Radiance, book 2 in the Stormlight Archive. So this is what I meant when I said that there was another book, Brandon Sanderson book here. So, and this was one of those situations where I have all the books in this way. I have all the books that I'm up to date. So I have all 4 books. I bought, after Christmas, I ended up going to the bookstore and I bought the book 4. So I made sure to get it right away. And I do love the series, but look at these. This is huge. This is a lot. So it's a big commitment. So it's But I love how each of these books has this in it, and it has a lot of sketches in there, and like a map and all that. Like, I love that, you know, and I know that a lot of the special editions have colored illustrations in them as well, more colored illustrations in them. But I can't bring myself to spend that money. Maybe one day I'll get it as a gift or something one day, you know, someone might. But, at least I get like a taste of it with, you know, these end pages. I think that's really nice. So, yeah, this one I feel like I need to prioritize as well. Okay. Okay, let me reach over here. Okay, so we have ones that... So this one I definitely feel like... Okay, this is definitely another one that I feel like I should prioritize. So this was one of the books I got when we went to the author book back in the spring, the author event. And this is the ones we got, one of the ones I got from that event. The Ultimate Through Hike, combining, like, it's a sci-fi story set in space, but our main character is hiking, but on a planet. So, I want to get this, so I definitely want to get to this soon so I can give a review of it. Because I feel really bad that it's taking me this long to read it, but at least it's not it's not like I'm giving one of those ARC copies, so that where they, you know, where you have to rate it before they publish it, kind of thing, or like those, they send copies to certain reviewers, to help with, you know, help to see if to get people interested in it. So it's not one of those. It's more of it's more than I just, like, I feel bad because I talked to the author and I met him and stuff, so I would read it, and I still have not read it yet. So I need to get to it so I can do a review, because I don't want this one along with the other one I haven't read that I bought from that event to be neglected. Which my dad is reading that one right now, so it's okay with that one. And that one I felt like I should save it for the for winter time. Now this one originally I was gonna pick up for the summertime, but I didn't. So, but I feel like I should get to it now. Okay. So this is another one of the few mass records I still have. So I remember at the time this was one of those series that I was not going to pursue again. I, you know, was thinking about DNFing it, but then I didn't get rid of all the books. So I was like, you know, there was a book tour I watched that talked about how great this series was and how much I loved it, so I was inspired to give it another shot. So I got all the books that I still had, because I had most of them that I had bought, except for there was one that I thought I bought, but apparently I think it did get donated or sent away. But this is the second book in the Malazan series, Dead House Gates. And this is one of those ones where I just feel like I need to get to them. But, you know, I might put this back on the shelf for now and come back to it later. Like, save it for next year, this series. So, it's just, when I think about saying, like, oh, I should do that, but then all of a sudden I end up feeling guilty. It's like, no, I need to prioritize it now. I need to stop doing that. I need to stop feeling guilty if I decide to put the book on the shelf for now and come back to another time. So, there's that. This is another one of those that I put on the intimidating books, because the series alone is intimidating. And everybody with the Malazan always says you gotta completely focus on it, and some, you know, it can be very hit or miss for people when, okay, but anyway, okay, so I need to move some things around so I can reach the books, so I will be right back. Okay. Just a little bit. sorry about that. Now I'm sure that there were people that would probably say that's unprofessional, but I'm an amateur at this, so I don't care. As long as you guys aren't complaining. I mean, if you guys start complaining, then I will try to remember not to do that. Okay, so next, let's talk about some nonfiction. I have a little bit of a nonfiction pile here. So this one I only grabbed because of our trip is coming up. And I bought this because, we're going to, because of our trip. And I wanted to read some books that had to do with London. So this is London Labour and London Poor. So this is it says, extraordinary work of investigative journalism, a work of literature, and a groundbreaking work of sociology. So the author Mayhew interviewed London street traders, entertainers, thieves, beggars, talking about basically the rich and the poor of London in Victorian Britain. So, which I could read this for Victober. So yeah, which I'll save this for October and read it for October. But this is about the rich and the poor of London. And like I said, I wanted to read it because we have our trip. We were planning our trip, so I figured it would be a good time to start reading more books that are more nonfiction about the history of London. And this won't take me as long as that other book. The other nonfiction I bought about London, the London Civil War, and how and I think it was around the time that we broke away from England. But that one's gonna take a little longer, so I'm gonna start with this. And plus, I feel like it could fit with Victober. So there's that. And then the two other nonfictions I have here are Suetonius' Lives of the Caesars. So this is kind of a gossip on all the different Caesars. That's how people often describe Suetonius. He's a bit of a gossip, talking about the little nitty-gritty details about these guys. So, I thought that would be fun. I mean, I'm still a little intimidated, but I think it'll be like a fun take on on them. So this might be saved for November. And then this one is definitely in October, because it's In the Search of Mary Shelley, the girl who wrote Frankenstein. So, as it says, it is about the author who wrote Frankenstein and a bit of biography on her. And I think this would probably be perfect for this time of year, for October, because Frankenstein is considered Victorian literature. So, so I figured, and as soon as I saw this, I got really excited. And of course, I also thought about Jennifer Brooks. This definitely reminded me of her, because she's a big fan of Mary Shelley and what was her husband's name? I cannot remember. Percy Shelley. She absolutely loves them, and this made me think of her. So, okay. So next we have one I literally just bought. I kept debating if I wanted to get this, and then I saw a paperback copy at Walmart, because Walmart, unfortunately, does not have the best selection as far as books go. Because, it's not a bookstore. It's an everything kind of store. So it does have some books, and sometimes it has a lot of the bestseller type books, but not necessarily all the books. Not a lot of them. So, and I just finished the Poppy War trilogy a few months ago. I read the last book. So, I saw this on paperback. I was like, let me buy it. And it's another book that I feel like is great for October. So, it's kind of about colonialism and translation and the consequences of that, which is really interesting, because it's one of these things where, unfortunately, we cannot take that back. We can't change it. And there are for certain groups of people, there are a lot of benefits to that, but there are a lot of people that suffer the consequences of that. There's people from other parts of the world that, that suffered the consequences of it. So it's going to be an interesting thing to explore. And I'm excited to read this. Just like I said, Victober. Even though it's not Victorian literature, but okay. So then we have, and I actually just watched a video, where I cannot think of, Eric Carl Anderson. I forgot I have it up on my computer. He was doing like a video on 12 worth to read big books, and this is one of the ones he mentioned. And I love what I've read of this book. It's just, like I said, I have trouble committing to books this long. So, especially if they're not fast-paced plots. So, this is one of those ones where I just want to finish it. Finally, enjoy the rest of it, but it's a long book, and there are some parts that are a little bit slower than others. So, I really want to read this, but this is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke, and I did read Piranesi. Now, I did not read the book that kind of takes place in this world, which is much shorter. There's a book that takes place in this world that she wrote, but I have not got to it. So, I will get to it when I finally finish this one, if I come across it. So, this is one of the ones where I just want to finish it. I'm tired. I feel bad that it's still been sitting there. Okay, so next is something is another recent purchase. That I don't know if I'll read this in autumn or not, but it was like I said, I just bought it. So it's one of the volumes of the Arabian Nights, Tales of 1001 Nights, Volume 1. And there were 3 volumes. And I was able to get all 3 volumes. Like, at first I only just bought the 1 volume. And the salesman was like, you better get the next 2 volumes because it won't be there. It might not be there next time, which is true. But it was there, so I was able to get both volumes. I was very excited. So I got both of them. So I have all 3 now. So I was like, and I kind of loved rubbing it and like being on Instagram saying, I was able to get all of them. So this is basically this woman is living with this, has to go stay with the Sultan, who's known for killing his wives. So she's avoiding that getting killed by promising to tell him stories every night for the rest of her life. So, this is all the tales. So this is where you get Aladdin and Sinbad, and all those stories are these tales. So yeah, I want to at least read a couple of these, because I'm not gonna read this whole thing all in one go. But I'm thinking about reading some of these tales within in the next few months. Like, just slowly read through all these volumes. And they're short stories, so I can do that, and it's not the only short story collection I have. I also have this one as well, the collected works of Oscar Wilde, which has his plays and short stories and essays in it. And I read some of them back in February, so I decided to save the next one, which is The Canterville Ghost, for this autumn, because it's a ghost story. It's about a ghost living. This American family comes to stay at this manor, and it's being haunted. There's a ghost that lives there as well, so he's trying to get rid of them and scare them away. And I heard it's really funny, and like I said, I figured, wait and, continue with it in, like, September, October time. So there's that one. So I want to at least read that one. I don't know about the other ones yet. But I might save them, again for Victober, because Oscar Wilde is a Victorian author, so this might be a Victober read. Okay, so next set is again 3 books that are a collection of stories. So this one, so I have this idea to read some of these. This is the Ghost Stories of Edith Wharton, and I had this idea of reading all the stories to you guys, like making a video about it. But I have to see how long the stories are. Like what's their, before, because I already have a habit of making these longer videos. Although it might be interesting to read the, to like less boring than me just rambling. So, and also I also feel like I need to read them first, practice them, because then I don't want to stumble, and then it kind of ruins the atmosphere if I stumble. So I need to practice reading them first. But like I said, I want to see how long they are, how long some of these are. But yeah, I would think that'd be a fun idea. And then also, I have The Call of Cthulhu and the other weird stories. So this is the deluxe edition of H.P. Lovecraft's short stories. All those science fiction horror stories. I love to read those. I want to read some more of those as well. So, I've read some of them. Like, I've read the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first 5 stories in this collection. So, I have a couple more to go, several more to go, and I'm going to read some of them in September or October. I think that would be fun as well. So, like I said, I need to go through these along with, I also need to go through my, see if I can go through my clothes as well. But next is the Awakening and Other Stories by Kate Chopin. So I've been meaning to pick up this and read The Awakening first. But I feel like I need to maybe read it now or save it for November. I think I read The Awakening in college or high school, like one of those hardback big anthologies that they have that they give to you to read in high school or I think one of them was The Awakening. Either that, I'm thinking about my mom having read it, because I remember my mom read it when she started taking a couple classes for work. She was able to go back to school, and there was a special that her work was offering where you could go back to school, or at least take a few classes. And I think she had to read The Awakening for that, for some reason, which interesting for nursing school. But so I don't know if I'll read The Awakening, or maybe I'll read the very first story in this collection. I don't know, but I do want to get to this because it's been sitting there for a while, a couple years. Okay. Next we have, this was another recent purchase, and that is Thomas Mann, Buddenbrooks. Again, this feels like it might be more of a November read. It's a family saga story, and it's German. Which, by the way, I absolutely love. I really like the look of these Everyman Library hardback editions. I don't know why. I like the design and stuff. And you don't have to get it done. And I like that it doesn't have the dust jacket with it, but it still has the title card on it and the ribbon bookmark. So this might be a November read. But this is a family saga, and I've been wanting to read it. So okay, so we have. I hope I can get this done before my parents call me, because I don't want to refilm all this, because I can hear them preparing for dinner. So this is the Master Margarita. So I want to. I'm almost done with The Idiot. I'm on part 3, although I thought there were only part 3s. I realized there was a part 4. And I think before I read another Dostoevsky, I think I want to read another Russian author. So this is The Master Margarita by Mikhail Bokov. Try to do the Russian pronunciation, but I'm really bad at it. And I think this is like, it has to do with the devil a little bit. Like the devil takes a mortal form or something and approaches these two men. And I already started it a while back. I might have to restart it. But it's supposed to have like a magical realism feel to it, I think. It's just really, really bizarre, but in a good way, if that makes any sense. So I want to pick this up next. Soon, the next Russian novel I read. So there's that one. And then we have The Woman in White. So I attempted starting The Moonstone, but then I realized I was kind of more intrigued by this one. This is about this tutor who he's summoned to, teach this group of girls, and he comes across this one woman who he sees in a white gown wandering around, and they have this really strange conversation. He ends up giving her a lift, but she's all like, "Don't tell anyone that you saw me." And then meanwhile, he bumps into this doctor and who says he's been trying to chase this woman dressed in white. She's escaped. She escaped an asylum, but he, tells them he has not seen her. So, and this was recommended for Victober recently by, I think, so for both videos that I watched recommended this book, I think. So, I figure let me do this one, and then I'll come back to The Moonstone, and then there's Armadale. So I think this will be a Victober one. As well. So now there is another Victober potential that I did not take off this list. That is The Way We Live Now. That's the group read, so I might pick that one up too. Okay, then this next one is one where I just have not. Again, it's another situation where I need to finish it. And that is Dombey and Son. Now, when I say that, like I said, that does not mean that I'm not loving the book. It's just, again, it's a long one. It's long. So, which there was a plot point in this that I was surprised it happened when it did. I didn't think it would happen so soon, but it did. But I need to continue this one, so this one is a priority for Victober, or maybe even start it now this month. Like, even if I don't finish it by the end of the month, just start it. So we have a father who wants a son. He just dismisses his daughter, but then with his son, things don't turn out the way he expected, and his daughter proves to be more valuable than he realizes. So far it's really good. It's just, again, it's so long, and there are slower parts. So I need to pick this up again. It's Dombey and Son by Dickens, and I feel like I want to make this a priority for October, or at least start in September. Okay, now we have, So, now we have Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. Again, a potential for October. It's a bit of a mystery because this guy's cousin marries this woman, and then he ends up dead. So the cousin blames her, his new wife, and she has the secret that she won't reveal to anyone. So, it sounds really intriguing, and I remember starting it and reading it, but I forgot to pick it up again, so it got put down again. So I want to pick it up for possibly October. Okay, and then we have, I have to clean up all this and decide which ones I'm going to read. And then we have Anne Bronte's The 10 of Wildfield Hall. This woman runs away with her son from her abusive husband, in which you're not supposed to do at the time of the setting. And it's about her in hiding and the people she meets. So I might want to read this one soon as well. So, like I said, there's a lot of these I want to read sooner rather than later, but I have to decide which ones. Okay, so this one, so I have attempted to read Ulysses quite a few times, and I'm not giving up. So, like, I decided to right now just start with one of his shorter works first. So we have A Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, and then Dubliners, which I had a copy of Dubliners, but at the time I decided I'm not going to read it, so I ended up donating it. And then I got into James Joyce again, so I figured let me start here, and then I'll come back. And so far, it's a little bit easier to read this one, A Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man. It's about the main character growing up from starting as a little boy to becoming a young adult. And the character's name is the same name of the main character in Ulysses, I think. So I think there's a connection. Like, this is maybe his origins, and then Ulysses about a time as him as an adult. So I could be wrong here, but I think it was the same name. So and so far it's a very amusing story, and it's a little easier to read than the other one. It still has the same writing style, but like I said, it's not as hard to get into as the other one is. And not as much to read either, because Ulysses is a long book. So this might get shelved again for now, and I'll come back to it. I don't know, but for some reason I just was inspired to pick it up in autumn. So there's that one, and then we have Anglo-Saxon Attitudes by Angus Wilson. So I have never heard of this one, so it got me excited. And it's basically this guy, he's now in his 60s, and during an archaeological dig, see, I'm refreshing my memory via looking at the back, he discovered an obscene idol in a coffin, a 17th century bishop, and it scandalized a generation. And it turned out to be a hoax. And apparently Gerald, knows who was responsible, who set up the hoax. But he doesn't want to, the risk could, this could be, it might not be such a good idea to reveal it. And apparently the novelist is actually, the novelist, one of the things it says on here is one of England's first openly gay novelists. And that he was a realist who relished sleaze and scuffle of the daily life. And it's a satire in virtuosistically plotted and displaying Dickensian humor. So I got really excited to read the back of this. So I want to check this. This is another one that's definitely a priority because it just got me excited with it. And I did attempt to bring it with me on my last trip to my grandma's, but I never got to it, so I want to prioritize this one, definitely. Okay, and then we have The Portable Dante. So this has his Divine Comedy in it, and that's the one I want to focus on. And it also has his other, what is it? Vita, let me see what this is. It does not say in there. Okay, let me look at it as a content, table of contents. But, Vita Nova, which I think that one was written for his lover, Dante's lover. So I've read a lot of it so far. I've read up to Canto 10. So I've been wanting to continue it. I probably won't finish it in autumn, but I want to read a little, make some progress on it. Basically, and that's the best I can get, you know? I want to read a good chunk of it. And I feel like I shouldn't put pressure on myself. I just want to get as much as I can done as possible, especially with something like this. I mean, it's a poem, a giant poem. So I feel like you can risk reading the sections at different times. So yeah, so I want to get to this one as well. Okay, and then we have The Framley Parsonage. This is the book 4, I think, in the Barsetshire Chronicles. And I've been wanting to get to it for a while, so and the series isn't super long, but it's not like a big epic fantasy or anything, so it's not hard to read, and you can get away with reading it, like reading the books within long periods of time in between each book, because it's not like you have to read the next book to know what happens kind of situation. So I feel bad. I don't want to get rid of these dust jackets, but it's like falling apart. I might take it off. But I don't know much about what happens in this one. I can tell you without reading the description, and I don't remember what it said, so I don't have a lot to say. I just want to get to this one. And again, Victorian literature, so it can work for Victober. Okay, one more pile to go. So then we have The Damascus Gate, which makes me think of Dan Brown a little bit in his works, his novels. So this takes place in the Holy City of Jerusalem, and this journalist is trying to expose this one religious group or something. He's trying to find the next big story, I think. And I've read the first 4 chapters of it. Like I said, I feel like I need to prioritize. Well, actually, the first 7 apparently, because the next chapter is chapter 7. So the first 7 chapters. So far, it's really interesting. What's going on. I kind of like these stories that are but I like I wanted more literary take on it. Which it kind of made me think of also the weight of ink with the type of story it was. So I want to pick this one up. I want to read this sooner rather than later. Again, I know I keep repeating myself, but all these books I want to read sooner rather than later. Okay, and then we have, let me move this over here. Okay, which I'm going to have to move. I don't know how I'm going to get up from this, because I don't want to, knock things over or anything. So, okay, so this is The Pale Horseman, the second book in the Saxon series. Again, another priority I think I should consider, because I don't want this to be one of those series where I spread out each book in the series, like within years. So I want to read this soon, before the end of the year. And then we have, so I grabbed this one as well, which is Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. And this has kind of been compared, I think, it's a thriller. I think it's one of those, kind of been compared to Dickens, and there's a bit of a character learning how to be a pickpocket or something, I think. And of course there's going to be a romance. And I think, again, another one that would be perfect for this time of year. Ideally, maybe, probably in November read. I feel like I need to go through these and pick which one would probably be fit for November. So there's those 2. Those 3. And then we have This one, I don't know. This one might go back to being a summer read, but this one has 3 stories in one volume. The Huguenot Connection. It's during the whole when the king of, I think it's France at the time, was like, I want us all to be one big religion, so anyone that's not my religion I want, you're gonna all go bye-bye. We're gonna get rid of you all. And they were trying to do it without bloodshed, so they basically got rid of all these people. I think it's Protestants? Is that what it, I think, doesn't say. I don't know. I think it's Protestants. I think the Huguenots are the Protestants. So, and I read the first book over the summer back in July, I think. Yeah, in July. And it wasn't as long, but the other 2 books, Voyage of Malice and Land of Hope, look like they're longer than the first one, Merchants of Virtue, which is more of a novella. And it's basically focused on the one family, and they get kicked out, you know, they get separated. The husband gets sent on a boat as an indentured, as a slave, and the wife has to go into hiding and has to leave her children behind with her sister and brother-in-law, who have converted, because they're, and one of her, she at the end of the book, she does get reunited. At the end of the first one, she does get reunited with one of her children. So the next book is what's going to happen next for the couple and their children. And it's one of those books that just made me so angry when I was reading it. Just what was happening, these people just frustrated me. So, and it's not that it was a bad, you know, and when I get, you know, and I just love historical fiction, but oh my god, whenever I read historical fiction, sometimes I just get so angry. Because, like, what happened in these stories is just so horrible at times, and just the way characters are treat them and the way people feel about them is just stupid. All because the king was like, I want to unite you all under one religion. You know, when you read a book where that is the motivation for the character, you know, like, I feel like uniting the claim of uniting everybody in one thing is just, you don't never know with that. You can't, it's like, I'm also reading In the Way of Edan by Philip Chase. The king of one part of the world is like, I want everybody to all be united in one as long as I get to rule. Basically, that mentality of all united under me, pledging allegiance to me, basically. As soon as you get that in a story, then you're like, oh, that's not good. That's bad. We gotta stop. This person is just, it's not that they care. They don't care. They just want to be in charge. Or they want everyone to go their way. So, I don't know if I'll get to Malice, Voyage of Malice. I might save that for next summer. So, okay, like, we have 3 more books to go. Okay, next is The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. And I've been saving this for this fall. So this is a bit of a medieval mystery. And it's not the first medieval mystery that I've read. I liked the other one I read. I mean, I didn't love it, but I did like it. This is basically a monk is dead. So they're trying to decide, was he murdered or did he commit suicide? And this monk who turns detective is trying to figure out what he found out and what maybe did he commit suicide, you know, figure out, did he commit suicide, or maybe someone murdered him because they didn't want him to spread what he found out. Which it actually makes me think of one that I read, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, or the end of the year before, where this one book, where this priest finds out something about the religious group that he's part of, and it kind of shatters his whole belief system, and he ends up having to make a sacrifice himself so his sister can get involved and investigate, or someone can get involved and expose the truth. So I love the setting that it's in an abbey, and it's a bit of a closed mystery, and I always love the idea of someone finding out something that changes everything in history. I love that concept. I mean, that's why I love the Dan Brown books, especially Da Vinci Code, or at least the 2 that I read, the Da Vinci Code. Well, 3, actually. So the Da Vinci Code, the Lost Symbol, and then there's the other one. The other one, I can't remember what it's called. Angels and Demons. I love that because that one also explores that themes of changing history, realizing that history is not what it seems. I love that theme. So I've been waiting to get to this one. So this one is probably going to be a priority. I know I'm repeating myself, but I don't know what else to say. Okay, 2 more books. We have... Okay, so this is one of these where I read the story, and I almost want to reread it, but I'm opting to read the author's other book that I just bought first, before I reread that one. So maybe I'll reread that one next year. But this is Elizabeth Kostovo's The Swan Thieves. Blah, 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 blah. It's a bit of a mystery. And I think it's about stealing a portrait or an art book. I mean, not an art book, but a painting, I think. But I love how Elizabeth Kostova writes. And this is, like, I don't know if you consider this an autumn book or not. I mean, although when I say that, thinking about it, it also depends on how you define autumnal books. I don't know if I would consider this an autumnal book or not, personally. But I'm like, I love the historian, so I want to read another book by her. And I'm going to look up what other books that she has written so that I can maybe read all of her books if she's written more than 2 books. But yeah, this is more of because I read the first book last year around this time, so I want to read her next book around this time as well. So there's that one, The Swan Thieves. And then the very last book is Rebecca's Tale. So this is the story of Rebecca's story from her perspective. So you have Rebecca is, in that book, in Rebecca, you hear so much about her and everything, the title character, and she's so intriguing. And our main character in that story, she wants to be like her. She's constantly being compared to her, so she's trying to live up to that reputation. And so this is that one, the actual Rebecca story, and how she came to be dead in the book, and her relationship with Maxim de Winter, and which we got a little tease of it, and it was not great. So I'm sure this is not gonna be a happy book. And I'm tempted to say it for the spring, but I think I'm gonna read it now in the next 3 months. So she's very intriguing, especially, I like how there are so many authors nowadays that are retelling a lot of these classic books. I mean, with this one, you don't even need to, it's not even a situation where it's one of those stories that was told by a male author, and then you had a woman character that was shunned to the side or made not as developed or seen as a villain. It isn't even that. It actually is kind of that way, because you have, our main character was a female, but you do have a character that is put in the background that you get hints about her, you get told about her, but she's seen as a villain. And so this story, I love how a lot of authors are taking situations like that and writing books about those characters and exploring them and seeing what you can do with them, and giving giving them their own story. But so I definitely am excited to read this. Wish me luck, by the way, on trying to determine which one of these books I want to prioritize first. And I hope you liked this video and you weren't bored by my ramblings. And I hope you like this video. I hope you really love. I hope you liked it, and I would love to hear what you want to read this autumn. If you are in this part of the hemisphere and it's autumn for you, I mean, if it's the complete opposite for you and it's more spring weather, I guess, then share. I would still love to know what you are reading. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, click subscribe. If you haven't already, click the bell notification button if you want to be notified about my latest videos and when I'm going to upload them. And I hope you are enjoying your reading, and I will talk to you all later. All right, bye.